Welcome. Today's episode is about an elegant first lady on a special mission and a respected industrialist who can be described as a gifted polymath. Mrs. Olufunso Amosun is a classic first lady of Ogun State with a determination to put smiles on the faces of the less privileged and ensuring our environment is preserved well enough for our future generations to enjoy. She wrote this fascinating book titled Green Education for the Youth. It's a book designed to help people, especially the youth, appreciate the importance of saving the earth. She was welcomed by the management of Channels Television, after which she discussed her new book and her quest for a green revolution with the Channels Book Club.
I'm Mrs. Olufunso Amosun. I'm here at Channels Television. I'm here to inspire our youth to cultivate the culture of book reading. Read a book today, develop your mind, broaden your horizon, gain knowledge. Read a book today and change somebody's life. And remember, keep watching Channels Book Club.
It opens with a gate of arts, moves into windows of creativity.
She finds the only English word she knows from somewhere hidden in the belly of a 4'9" body, and instead of "I won't get," she greets us with "bye bye."
Branches into rooms of color. And ends with a roof of imagination.
Walk into Art House. The pieces all come together at 9:30 p.m. every Saturday. Art House, life is art.
Going green leads to a healthy, sustainable environment. Let us maintain, keep, and preserve the earth by making little contributions and sacrifices towards nurturing it and preserving it. It's a book that you can leaf through and immediately grasp the concepts. So I believe I've been able to reach my target group at this point in time and to educate them as intended. I'd like to seize the opportunity to thank all of those that work closely with me, because at that time I wasn't too a pleasant person. I didn't want to speak to anybody. I kept on telling anybody, if you don't have anything important to discuss with me, please go away. I'm busy. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to be disturbed. But getting the job done and seeing the book unfold was very fulfilling and very rewarding, because I could see it coming together. And even though I was writing a book, because it required a lot of research, I was actually educating myself. And the more I tried to put the book together, the more I became inspired as well. And I would say that I've gained a lot of knowledge as well by writing this book for the benefit of the children.
What are the common practices we have in Nigeria that are not very good for staying green and maintaining the environment in the right condition?
Right. From a child's perspective, I'd say things like what a lot of us are guilty of. When we're brushing our teeth, we leave the tap running. We're wasting water. When we walk out of the rooms, we don't switch off the lights. We're wasting energy. We're polluting as well, because when you don't switch off lights, because of the current situation in Nigeria about power, we tend to have to switch on generating sets. If the lights weren't on, or we didn't need the lights, we wouldn't need to put on our generating sets, and we wouldn't be causing pollution within the environment. So just basic things about our day-to-day living things, little changes that they can make to make the world a better place, to make the environment a cleaner and healthier one.
And I liked one there. walk rather than drive if you can?
Yes. You know, even if you were to walk along the street now, I'm sure a lot of people would park and say, excuse me, is there anything wrong with your car? We can walk. We need to be healthier anyway in the society. And we would be conserving energy because we need fuel to drive the cars. So if we drive less, we're using less fuel. So this is why we say walk instead of drive. And if you really do have to drive, then take a passenger. If we could have, like they used to have in the olden days, when lots of children went to school with maybe somebody else's mom, then maybe you'd have 4 school children going in one car in the same direction, as opposed to 4 cars being on the road going to the same school. It's just little lifestyle changes that can actually make a huge difference to conserving energy.
Let's get a bit up close and personal now.
Right.
You really have 5 children.
I have 5 children. I do, to the glory of God. 5 wonderful children.
That's good. Which books and authors have influenced you the most?
I wouldn't say any in particular. I am more of a web crawler. So you could say sites on the internet. You could ask me about what sites on the internet have inspired me the more. And even to that, I wouldn't have a particular answer for you. It's just like listening to the news, tapping into what's going on around you, seeing people's conditions, and thinking of how you can assist. That sort of like sways me and influences whatever I do round about now on this platform as the wife of the governor.
Okay, now the life of first ladies generally, a little bit mysterious to a lot of people. What's the average day like for you as a first lady?
Personally, it would depend on whether we have any activities to attend, like functions and what have you. If we have functions to attend, then I'll try as much as possible to be there. If His Excellency Senator Olufunso Amosun FCA is hosting guests in the government house, then that is my major role. I'm supposed to support him in making sure that the government house is running smoothly if he has guests or has other things to attend to within the government house. That is actually my role. Anything else depends on the individual and how far you'd like to stretch yourself on that platform.
Please tell us about, you have green clubs in schools. Can you tell us about that?
Well, just like as before, the extracurricular activities in schools. I've worked closely with the Ministry of Education and tried to get clubs such as Boy Scouts, Girl Guides, Brownies to teach, whilst they're having their normal activities, the basics of going green. And on the Children's Day, when these books were given out, I pronounced all the recipients as GEFTI ambassadors. I said to them, now you know the basics of going green. You need to preach them to anybody you come in contact with. I've since said that GEFTI ambassadors clubs should be formed in schools and be part of extracurricular activities. It's just to have fun, to learn through fun the basics of going green in schools and amongst children.
That's good. Can you please give us a few highlights of the book?
Well, one of my favorite topics in this book is something that I have coined as green empathy. It means being empathic to our fellow less privileged people in the society. I've said we should teach our children to go green by not being wasteful. They shouldn't be wasteful with food so that they can give the less privileged in the society. They should learn, we should teach them to respect their clothing, to take care of their clothing and things like that, such that they can package them when they are no longer in use to give to the less privileged in the society. Because one of the major highlight of going green are the 3 R's, which are reducing, reusing, and recycling. The green empathy hinges on reusing. It's all in a bid to reduce waste. Instead of throwing clothes out and mounting up waste. If we keep the clothes in good condition, then we can give them to the less privileged people in the society, as opposed to them ending up in the dustbin and contributing to waste in the society. So we teach our children to share with the less privileged, to actually be conscious that there are people out there. Eat a little less. Don't be wasteful with lightings and things like that, to sort of like tweak their subconsciousness that there are people out there that they can help if they just give a little bit, if they are not so wasteful. That is what the concept of the green empathy is about. Planting a tree is one of the basic ones. We need to let the children understand that to sustain the environment and the forest inhabitants, we need to make sure that we sustain forestation, and their little quota towards this could be to plant a tree. If you and I and everybody in this room planted a tree, then we would be working towards sustaining the environment.
Chief Rasheed Gbadamosi, OFR, is a distinguished economist, industrialist, entrepreneur, art collector, playwright, writer of short stories, and an incredible lover of books. He opened his impressive library to the Channels Book Club and shared the story of his journey with books. Please don't go away. We'll be back after this break.
Well, the writing bit emanated from my love of literature, and I started out writing short stories, then drama.
Thank you very much for coming on the Channels Book Club.
I'm exceedingly elated. Anything Channels.
A lot of people know Chief Rasheed Gbadamosi, the industrialist, but they don't know the writer. Can you give us a glimpse into your life as a writer?
It started out when I was an exchange student of economics. I went from the United Kingdom to Greece, something called ISEC, Association of Students of Economics and Social Studies. And I was sitting in the library of a bank where I was an exchange student. And those who gave me the job asked me to do some comparison between some financial institutions in the United Kingdom and in Greece. And there was a secretary there who could type and could also comprehend the English language. So I would do the bit I had to do for the financial institutions in the morning. And in the afternoon I would say, okay, well, why don't I start writing something? And the first thing I tackled actually was a play, Trees Grow in the Desert. As Civil War had just broken out, I spent several evenings scouring foreign newspapers, foreign meaning English-speaking newspapers, on news of our Civil War. And then I started to put things together, and I was able to do a bit of the play, and from the play I graduated into short story writing.
You've written 6 plays, about 30 short stories. There's a particular one that won you an award in 1970, Sunrise over Nairobi. How important was that particular short story?
It was a landmark because I had established some notice as a short story writer by the time I returned to Nigeria in 1969. I came with a bunch of short stories, which I handed over to my great Egbon, Sam Amuka. It was at the Sunday Times. I was the editor. He just took the pile and said, okay, I'll talk to you later. Lo and behold, one particular Sunday, 24th of December, I remember because it was my father's 60th birthday on the 23rd of December. And on the 24th morning, I saw a copy of my short story reproduced in the Sunday Times, my very first published short story. And this had been done by Mr. Sam Amuka as editor of the Sunday Times. And I was elated. I was really unbelievably happy.
Which books and authors have influenced you the most?
American authors seem to have done a lot, but not just American authors. The F. Scott Fitzgerald, the Hemingway. There has been a great deal of George Orwell influence, because I tended towards political fiction. And when I was studying for my A-levels, I had a teacher who was rather left-wing, and he thought our capacity to write good essays also could be strengthened by our reading political history. That lecturer also inspired in me the need to go and watch drama, live drama, especially the ones that had political orientation. So Shonika's play, Trials of Brother Jero, was brought to England about the time I was there. So I found myself going to the theatre. And,
Should we be looking forward to a memoir, an autobiography soon?
Yes, yes, I have. I'm making some attempts. I have bits of it. Two good friends of mine have written about my literary output. They in fact completed the work, the writings of Rasheed Gbadamosi. They've asked me to do a formal launch. I've been a bit remiss because I didn't want it to conflict with what might be a biography. I'm going to seek their permission to see how we can amalgamate things, you know. Then tons of my writings on economics, because when I was writing for the newspaper, I was doing, you know, almost weekly, fortnightly, dissection of economic issues. And this probably brought me to the notice of those who made decisions, and I had this economic appointment. And I don't know if it would be appropriate for me to bring those works together. And, you know, sometimes I read and I say, oh, did I really write this? You know, I thank God for that. They may merit being brought together too, you know, in a publication. So there is a literary bit of me, there is the economic writing bit of me, there is the, you know, reviews of books by great men, you know, by Papa Onabanjo, by the Akitola Williams, things that I looked at and done analysis of them. So, who knows?
If you were to be 25 again, what would you do differently?
The challenges and the obstacles in the way of intellectual evolution now, they're so mind-boggling. I look at my grandchildren. They're much younger, but my children particularly and I don't see them struggling for the enrichment of the intellect as much as I did. It's a bit of a tragedy, but it's a reality. And would I want to be like them? I don't know. I'm really not sure, because I don't see them struggling to imbibe knowledge. The passion with which I had to find out what was going on, the history of the world, the history of revolution, of things that had happened in nations of the world, the transformation and civil wars, revolution, wars among nations, the rivals in the rivalry of world powers. Those things were of extraordinary interest as to how leaders of the world were shaping the destiny of the entire globe. We don't have that, these days. There's sometimes silly things like a young spy jetting from somewhere to another. Not great ideological battle of right or wrong, of George Orwell going to Catalonia in Spain, a real great writer, donning fatigues, military fatigues to fight for a cause, because he believed in socialist revolution in Spain. Or how Lenin was able to get himself smuggled back to Russia in order to lead the revolution. A huge, great country like Russia, or a Mao Zedong leading a long march. Those are the things that I grew up to marvel at, to admire, and to draw object lessons on, struggle for the human condition. And then, of course, the poverty in India, the poverty in Africa, the Mau Mau rebellion in the 1950s, and then the Algerian Revolution. All the things that inspired me to be passionate about existence, about life, about the struggling side of man. I don't know if I would still come across issues like that. The world is strong, the world has become flat, and no great ideological differences and divide. You scarred the entire globe for information as to what was happening. Who was fighting what wars, who was involved in the revolution, what was and then the struggles of the races, what was happening in South Africa, what was happening to blacks in America. Those are the things that inspired and defined the kind of existence. The books I read, the biographies I hanker after, and the imbibing of the fighting will spirit in individuals of the milieu.
I hope you enjoyed those interviews. The world is still holding its breath and praying for Nelson Mandela. In that same spirit, we've decided that rather than announce one book of the week, today we'll announce 5 books. The 5 books were recently identified by Adam Hochschild in the Washington Post as 5 of the best books ever written on Mandela and South Africa. Mandela, the authorized biography by Anthony Sampson. It was written in the year 2000. This is a book well worth reading. The late Anthony Sampson was a fine British journalist who worked in South Africa as a young man and knew Mandela so well that he reportedly helped draft the famous speech the leader gave in court as he was about to be sentenced to life in prison. Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela himself. This was written in 1994. Mandela was deeply sincere in this book, and despite its predictable bows to political allies, this memoir is an important historical document. After Mandela, The Struggle for Freedom in Post-Apartheid South Africa. This was written by Douglas Foster in 2012. Penetrating and Untainted by Any Myth Making. This is by far the most interesting book about South Africa published in the past 5 or 10 years. It helps to put the life of Mandela into proper perspective. Beyond the Miracle, Inside the New South Africa by Alistair Sparks, written in 2003. This account by a veteran South African journalist is slightly dated and is a somewhat more optimistic picture than we might have today. Sparks is wise enough to understand the vast difference between political democracy and economic justice. Dinosaurs, Diamonds, and Democracy, a short history of South Africa. This was written by Francis Wilson in 2011. You cannot understand Mandela or today's South Africa without looking at the entire history of the country South Africa. This is a highly readable, quick survey, profusely illustrated by a distinguished South African economist, Protestant, layman, and social justice activist. Please get at least one of them, read it, and let's know what you think.
From one nation to another, there must be a meeting point. Their ideas may be different, but they must work to agree on what's best for the people. Diplomatic Channel untangles the discussions to bring out what's really important. Because it is our world, and it's our right to know how their decisions affect us.
We'll be happy to have you on any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. Thank you for joining us. My name is Olufunso Amosun. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.